total of 52 public officers, including 2 CEOs, have been interdicted with immediate effect.
Heads begin to roll as death toll inches towards 100.
Ambao unamanga ukiwa na 20 umerewa.
A village called Sharia, where death and pleasure live side by side.
Sasa wenye wanakodesa ndio wakifika kwa nyumba yao wanachanganyisha na vitu mbaya.
Hii pombe inapigwa kama unaangalia na tena haina hata chemical.
Disaster in waiting or lesser evil, where Changa brewers reign supreme.
I was just carrying my backpack with my laptop in. When I came in, 7 occupants, which are non-Somalis, all came down.
Abandoned schools and shocking tales, the silent victims of the war on terror.
This is KTN Prime with Yvonne Okwara and Wilson Buru.
Well, a very good evening to you on this 8th day of May 2014. Tonight we continue our coverage of the sip of death, the tragedy caused by illicit brews.
Indeed, the death toll continues to rise as senior officials in government are sent home. Our coverage of this begins now.
Well, residents are still grappling with the saddened grief that has befallen many families, but the focus is now on the little slum where it all began.
In this village, residents say life is affordable and there is plenty on offer, including brews like the one that caused tragedy. And as our Central Kenya reporter Carol Nderi now explains, police believe there could yet be more where the deadly drink came from.
As safe in an embrace, the Sharia informal settlement sits snugly right in the middle of Embu town. The Sharia slum that has been in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. It literally means to each his own. But the residents of this place that is right at the heart of Embu town, as you can see, say there is more to this place than people know. This is a place where 37 people have died from the consumption of illicit brew dubbed Kosovo or Kasufuria in some quarters. At the edge of the settlement, overlooking a dirt road, is the notorious drinking den, Mama Kamau's establishment, where the victims indulged in the brew. The plastic cans here telling it all, the glasses on the rooftop thrown here in reckless abandon. Mama Kamau or Modoni Kimani, as mentioned to us by the area OCPD, is still at large, but her daughter and one worker are in custody. Police officers are combing through the shanties in search of more liquor that was allegedly still being sold secretly even after the deaths. It is an informal settlement, but who exactly are the inhabitants of Shauriako?
Ukiamuka club simefungwa. Kalavulia inauzwa. Na unaamuka ukiwa unatetemeka. Huwezi fanya kitu.
This is a slum whereby somebody could go, be given a class, and then it disappears.
Shauriako is sandwiched between modern buildings that dot Embu town.
Kunywa pombe kama vile watu wamekunywa akakufa. Shauriako sasa ikaitwa Shauria. Unaona hata nyumba tu zinakaa Shauriako.
Its proximity to the town and the nearby market means Shauriako gets its fair share of visitors who do not necessarily live there.
Maisha ya Sauli ya Maazura.
Maybe we need to relook at our planning of the towns.
But because of affordability of meals and alcoholic drinks, it plays host to many in this county.
Ile biashara tulipata hapa wazazi wetu wakifanya ya kuuza pombe, bado na sisi tulikuja tukaendelea na biashara gani? Ni wazee ambao walikuwa wametoka kwa kichaka, wale walikuwa wanapigania uhuru, walipokuja wakapata mashamba imegawanwa.
Kazi ya ukahaba, mtu asiati uifanye juu ya kutaka kwake. Ni mtu akiangadisa umekaa uko aido uko na mtoto.
David Masharia is busy at his makeshift hotel that bears no visible name but is referred to as Kwa Ali. Ali is Masharia's nickname. Life here is bearable for the poor, he says.
Chakura, ni mbao, ukiwa na mbao unamanga, ukiwa na 20 umelewa.
They say they have been drinking here for a long time and never has such an incident occurred, something that puzzles them, even with the knowledge that illicit brew could turn fatal.
Mimi ukula huku, ukunywa huku, hatujawahi pata kitu kama hiyo. Miaka mingi sana imepita, mbona tukaipata? Hiyo ni swali.
Carol Derry for KTN in Embu County.
Now, at last, heads have begun to roll over the killer brew that has now claimed the lives of more than 80 people. The government has this afternoon suspended 52 public officers, including Nakada's CEO William Okedi and anti-counterfeit agency boss Johnson Odera over the killer brew saga. A tough-talking Cabinet Secretary for the Interior Ministry, Joseph Olelengu, said the interdicted officers were careless in executing their responsibilities. Patrick Amimo begins our coverage.
The government says 81 people have been killed so far and 175 others have been hospitalized, a number of them in critical condition. The government analysis on the killer brews shows they contain pure methanol and that other poisonous ingredients were also used in the preparation of the lethal brews.
We will bring charges of murder against manufacturers and sellers of the killer brew. The charges stem from the manufacture and sale of poisonous substances.
The government has interdicted 52 public officers, including 2 CEOs, deputy county commissioners, OCPDs, and heads of intelligence in the counties of Kiambu, Murang'a, Kitui, Makueni, and Embu.
CEOs are the CEO for Nakada and the CEO for Anti-Counterfeit Agency. These are the 2 agencies that are responsible for standards and regulation of the industry. It is the first time government has come out so strongly to demonstrate that it's no longer business as usual.
A raft of measures have also been laid out, including outlawing packaging and sale of alcoholic drinks in sachets, jerry cans, and other unlabeled containers. Industrial alcohol will now be colored to stop unscrupulous brewers using it as an ingredient in alcoholic drinks production.
Molasses shall be salted to make it unfit for manufacturing of alcohol. All licenses of manufacturers, distributors, and sellers are hereby cancelled.
The Cabinet Secretary for Health, James Sharia, has ordered closure of Comrade Investment Company Limited with immediate effect. This was after preliminary analysis of the company's brands, Countryman Liquor and Sacramento Ken Spirit, indicated high levels of methanol at 100%. KTN crew visited the company's premises in Babadogo Estate. Those who spoke to KTN on conditions of anonymity claimed that the brews are manufactured in this residential house cum factory. The gates to the premises are locked 24/7. Sources indicated KRA officials had raided the facility but never made any arrests, though owners of the company were in the premises. Other brands manufactured by Comrades Investments Company that the government chemists found to have high levels of methanol include Hardiman Brandy, Hardiman Gin, Hardiman Vodka, George's Vodka, George's Brandy, Rainbag Brandy, Pamoja Brandy, and Pamoja Gin.
I want also to imagine and suspect that these guys keep changing the names of the brands, because I don't have facts, but I want to imagine.
The government says it's also monitoring activities at the Kenya Bureau of Standards and heads might roll there. Meanwhile, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board has denied any knowledge over the methanol claims in killer brews.
Methanol is an industrial chemical. It's manufactured also in this country. It's also imported purely for industrial purposes, either as a solvent, maybe as a reagent. But as I said, Kenyans are very innovative, and that's why it may have found its way into alcohol. We are also working with other arms of government to find out where really the methanol found its way into that particular production unit.
So the government has cracked the whip by interdicting 52 public officers. Comrades Investment Limited, a company responsible for the killer brew, has been ordered closed, but its directors still remain at large. Patrick Amimo, KTN, Harambee House, Nairobi.
Well, the government making it very clear on this issue right then, suspending 52 officials, which brings us to a big question tonight. Do you support the government's decision to suspend top officials over the brew deaths? Do you support the government's decision to suspend officials over illicit brew deaths?
Remember, our hashtag continues to be Sip of Death on Twitter. Send in your comments at KTN Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, and at Wilson_Mburu. You can also send us a text message to the number 22155. Start with a yes or no, followed by a brief comment. Also, leave us your name and location, and we will sample your views throughout this live newscast. Now, the death of over 80 individuals after drinking illicit brews in various parts of the country has reignited debate as to whether the government should legalize changa production. But here in Nairobi, brewers in Sarangombe, Kibera are making a living from illicit brew, and proudly so. They took us through the brewing process, which they say, if done properly, produces pure changa that is safe for consumption. But is it? Here is Vilkis Nyabwa.
There is no cauldron bubbling over a fire. Neither do the attendants mutter incantations over the boiling pot. These women of Kibera insist that there is no magic to brewing pure changa, just a lot of sweaty work. Once a week, the women line up the pots in broad daylight. In the large containers that form the base of the operation is a mixture that has been fermenting all week. Kimera, the fermented millet, yeast and sugar are the most important ingredients.
Tukisasiaga unga, tunaweka kwa maji. Inamaliza siku 4, tunakaranga. Tukisa karanga, tunaweka chini na poa ndio tumwage kwa daramu.
The space between the first two containers is sealed tight with mud and a cloth added for good measure. A pan of boiling water goes on top. And with a fire burning beneath, the distillation process begins. The aim is to purify the fermented mixture, with the vapor going into the middle container. When the vapor cools, all that is left at the bottom is pure, clear alcohol. And the brewers are the first to taste it, checking the quality, they tell us.
Tukichemuza ni pombe mzuri yenye hata sisi wenyewe tunakunywa. Hatuwezi chemuza chenye kitu mbaya kuumiza watu.
One large container yields about 5 liters of changa, which is sold to distributors for 900 shillings. The remaining kangara is often used to clean toilets. For the remainder of the week, Eliza, as she is known to her friends, relinquishes the title of chief brewer. Then she is a friend, a valued customer, and the only parent her 4 children know. The changa business is an open secret which keeps a roof over the heads of many here.
Hiyo pombe lazima tu tutaipika. Tafadhalini. Siku hizi hata bwana hawajiwezi, lazima tuwasupport. Na ukipata njia yenye unaweza kusapotia bwana, hiyo tu nditabidi ufanye nini? Ufanye hiyo kazi.
But times are becoming increasingly difficult. Authorities are determined to curb drinking of illicit brews.
We have advised them that there is this Women Enterprise Fund, there is this Youth Enterprise Fund. They should go for these loans instead of doing illegal business, which the police can arrest all the time.
And in the wake of reports of brews that have killed scores around the country, customers have become fearful. The brewers blame middlemen for reportedly adding lethal substances. Granting them licenses to brew openly, they say, would eliminate the problem.
Vile imekuwa saa hii, kama iko hivyo, inaweza kufanya tutengeneze pombe mbaya. Tunachemuza mchana, tunachemuza usiku, si kitu mbaya ya kujificha. Tunajificha tu kwa vile saa hii imekuwa kali, itakikani tuchemuze.
But this, it is feared, would trade one evil for another, opening up the market for excessive consumption of alcohol. The debate now leaves the local brewers and their clients to bond over their shared secret. Wilkis Nyabwa, KTN.
Well, let's change gears now to the war on terrorism and to a group of silent victims of it. What would you do if one day you boarded a matatu and everyone in it ran away? Well, that's what's happening to one prominent Kenyan professional who just happens to be of Somali origin. With growing suspicion and the fear of attacks, Aiden's is not the first case. And as Rita Tinina reports, Even some tenants are now using the absence of ethnic Somalis in their rental flats as a selling point.
In the wake of improvised explosive device attacks, the latest being twin blasts involving buses along Thika Road on Sunday, some public service vehicle operators are taking measures to screen passengers. But the suspicion and fear of attacks, it appears, is now taking on a different dimension. And Adan Mohammed knows that all too well. His routine commute to work was redefined on Monday.
48 Matatu to Kileleshwa at Odeon stage. I was just carrying my backpack with my laptop in. When I came in, 7 occupants, which are non-Somalis, all came down. I felt frustrated.
Adan alighted from the matatu and opted to take a taxi to work.
Will I be taking taxi every day to work? Because that is the same matatu I've been using for the last 1.5 years.
Adan, who was the winner of the Wongozi Leadership Contest, was born in Mandera. He has worked in Nairobi and Mombasa. Currently, he works as a gender and governance consultant for the Northern Kenya Pastoral Development Agency.
I understand Kenyans are frustrated because of what's happening, bombings everywhere, every time. But when terrorists see this kind of things that Kenyans are turning on each other, they probably might chest thump and say, yes, we've done what we had needed to do, and they might get encouraged in doing these kind of attacks.
This wristband with colors of the Kenyan flag is a permanent feature on his left hand, and he says not even the Monday incident can make him feel any less Kenyan.
I'm proud to be Kenyan. I have no any other country. Whether I'm harassed in the street, whether I'm removed out of Matatu or anywhere, I remain Kenyan. I'm a patriotic Kenyan.
Adan says the Monday incident is not an isolated one, with several people reporting the same treatment in public service vehicles. In Mombasa, this advertisement for a 3-bedroomed apartment at the Nyali Links Plaza paints yet another picture. The advertisement has the usual information meant to attract tenants, such as the proximity to the beach, a spacious kitchen, and a separate dining area. But one feature stands out. According to the advertisement, there is yet another apparently important attraction to the flat: no Somalis. And so as the war on terror continues, Adan and many like him hope that they won't continue being the silent victims whose only crime is how they look. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Elsewhere in Nairobi, President Uhuru Kenyatta made an impromptu visit to the troubled Lands Ministry in what is now seen as an endorsement of embattled Land Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu. The president's visit came as the Lands Commission went to court to challenge the Cabinet Secretary's recent orders at Ardhi House. Ben Kitili reports.
You know, there is no way.
The president's visit to the Lands Ministry headquarters will come as a sort of an assurance to the Land Secretary Charity Ngilu, who has been under pressure from various land stakeholders.
We can better serve our people in a shorter time, so that people can get on with their business without saying government is the one that is frustrating.
Ngilu halted the operations of the Lands Registry for 10 days to facilitate reforms of the Central Registry. The president has backed Ngilu to clean the crucial ministry.
I'm really looking forward to coming back to see now the cleaned up place, and your service and how you're actually servicing Kenyans.
We have already put the equipment at the Survey of Kenya, and then they'll be able, under the same roof, do adjudication. Under the same roof, they'll be able to do registration.
However, Ngilu's troubles are far from over. Ngilu's directive to freeze all land transactions for 2 weeks has effectively also shut down operations of the National Land Commission. The Mohamed Sozuri-led commission has now moved to court, seeking to have the orders issued for their closure declared unconstitutional. Ngilu has insisted that the closure was necessary and that the process of auditing all lands registry accounts had begun, and that it would pave way for the digitization of lands records for better services and to curb corruption and land fraud. Meanwhile, there is political pressure on Ngilu. Members of parliament from the coast region have thrown their weight behind the Land Commission, accusing Ngilu of frustrating the commission's work.
We're demanding from the president to take stern measures and transfer Honorable Charity Ngilu from lands to any other ministry. We don't want her to continue frustrating Swazuri.
The National Land Commission wants the court to shed more light on issues relating to renewals, land leases, as well as management of private land.
Tunamuomba Raisi ajibu wa Kenya, mbona amenyamaza kimya wakati Ngilu ananyanyasa haki za Wakenya kupitia kwa ofisi ile ambayo anaishikilia.
The case will be heard Friday, and Kenyans who are expecting to have their title deeds processed will be hoping for an end to the standoff between the Lands Ministry and the vital National Lands Commission. Ben Kitili, KTN.
The Council of Governors has maintained Firebrand Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto as its chairman for the second year running.
Ruto was elected unopposed as Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero dropped out of the vice chairmanship race, citing work pressure, and has been replaced by Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya.
He is our senior political reporter, Samogina.
Unanimously, governors have granted its top leadership another one-year term, save for the Council of Governors vice chairperson. Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto was re-elected unopposed. Kwale Governor Salim Mvurya replaces Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero as governor's vice chair, while Bungoma Governor Ken Lusaka retained his position as secretary. Receiving the stamp of approval to lead governors, the Firebrand has vowed to continue championing the devolution cause.
On issues of devolution, we'll continue to put our foot down because there are specific benchmarks in the Constitution. There are specific benchmarks which Kenyans believed in when they were agitating for the new Constitution, and history has given us the opportunity to implement devolution. We will not let down Kenyans.
We will continue to strengthen devolution, to implement devolution in the counties, and we'll also continue to monitor and check the threats to devolution and raise issues as need arises.
Despite retaining status quo, Nairobi Governor lost his position as vice chairperson. The Kwale Governor, sponsored by Code Aswos Kidero, toppled Kidero for the position. No one proposed Kidero to maintain his vice chair seat. Kisumu Governor Jackson Ranguma instead proposed the Kwale Governor as the replacement for Kidero. Kivutha Kibwana of Makueni County would second him to have Mvurya become the new vice chairperson of the Council of Governors.
I thought that probably I need to devote a little bit more time serving the Nairobi people. But that doesn't mean that I will not be serving the governors the way I'd been doing before. I will continue doing so, and even providing them with resources.
It reflects a lot of confidence on the part of my colleagues to elect me as the vice chair of the Council of Governors.
Kidero initially wanted to contest for the chairman position but shelved his bid. Meanwhile, the Governor's Council has renamed the secretary position to the Governor's Chief Whip, the primary role of Bungoma Governor Ken Lusaka.
He'll be doing exactly what he has been doing because Governor Lusaka has actually been whipping us to meetings. We only realized that the naming was required some adjustment.
The installed leadership says after 1 year of teething problems, it is time for self-assessment and to make amends to steer the devolution process forward. Coming on the backdrop of intensified impeachment onslaughts against governors, the county chiefs are optimistic about diffusing the mounting tensions.
We hope to improve on what we ourselves may not have done extremely well. We'll look at our successes. We'll do our own self-critique. But we want to assure you that we will move forward. Our business is not to fight with anyone.
The governors meet women MCAs on Friday to chat county governors matters and try to diffuse the frosty relations that threatens the counties. Samogina, KTN.
He was arrested by the police.
A fact also echoed by the school principal.
We do know that some of them may have been affected by the security checks that were there, and we are informed that some of them were also, and their parents went to Kasarani. We are yet to establish the total details. That's what we are doing, and hopefully maybe by the end of the week tomorrow we'll have known.
These empty desks are a stark reminder of the gaping hole left in the classes by the absentees. Mohamud Mohammed, a Form 4 student, was a victim of the police soup. Lucky enough to get back to school in time, he tells us his predicament.
Ilikuwa last month, vile nimetoka nyumbani, nimeulizwa ID. Nimewacha ID yangu, national ID na student card. Alafu tena, sasa ofisa hukunielewa vizuri, akanishika, akanipeleka Pangani.
47-year-old Mahmoud Abdullah is a very worried parent. None of his children are going back to school at the moment.
Watoto yangu wametoroka shule na sababu operation ya polisi.
Abdullah is not alone in this.
Watoto wetu wanasoma shule, wanaenda shule wanasoma, lakini wengine wametoroka kwa sababu wazazi wao wameshikwa wamepelekwa Somalia.
The head teacher tells us of the stigma the school is grappling with, being among the schools suspected of radicalization.
The issue of radicalization has been there. I know we have had a lot of security meetings. We cannot be able to deny the fact that you can never know being a day school. We have many challenges.
And it's not just Isli High School alone. Maina Wanjigi Secondary School is suffering a similar fate. Most students are yet to report back. Their whereabouts not yet known. The school heads are now calling on the police to release the students detained. They feel they are the most affected by the ongoing operation in the country. This is because of their location at the heart of Isli. And as they enjoy their cup of tea, their wish is just one, for things to get back to normal the way they were before in Isli. Habiba Ali, Isli High School, Nairobi.
Now from that, let's give you some other stories. 2 Kenyan women have been honored for their exemplary achievements that have made news across the world. Ori Okolo and Captain Koki Mutungi brushed shoulders with some of Kenya's leaders from the politics and the industries. KTN's Najma Ismail reports.
Ori Okolo and Captain Koki Mutungi stood up to be honored. A group of friends led by Baringo Senator's wife, Zara Moi, organized a high tea event to celebrate their achievements. Okolo, a mother of 3 who is based in Johannesburg, South Africa, is a blogger and an activist and was named one of the Times 100's most influential people list of 2014. On the other hand, Captain Koki Mutungi, who is the first African captain on the world's latest plane, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, was also recognized for her achievements. The event was attended by some of the country's most influential women, including Senator Zipporah Kitoni, Honorine Kiplegat, and Evelyn Mungai, as well as other public figures, including Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, Standard Group CEO Sam Shuley and his wife Gladys, and Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero. Najma Ismail, KTN.
I'm Boni Tunya. This is business. Kenya's export market is expected to grow significantly with a planned value addition process for goods out of the country. Here's KTN's Adelaide Changola with that report.
Kenya earned 540 billion shillings in 2013 from the export of tea, coffee, and fresh horticultural products to Europe, China, United States, and East Africa.
Out of every 100 shillings that you spend, 14 shillings of that is coming out of our exports.
But the sector suffered a bad year after international prices of key exports took a nosedive, a factor that contributed to the slower than expected GDP growth of 4.7% and weakened the country's balance of payments.
Export-import ratio deteriorating from 37.7% to 35.5% in 2013.
Kenya's high-power transport, labor, and taxation regime have created a difficult operating environment, pushing Kenya's ranking in the World Bank Doing Business Index from 72 in 2008 to 129 last year, and making the country increasingly unattractive for investors.
The private sector is the engine of any country's economic growth, and it is therefore essential for the Kenyan government to continue to create a conducive environment in which to do business.
Going forward, the government says they will be introducing value addition as it seeks to shift from exporting basic goods to processed products.
Ensure that each county has at least one agricultural value addition processing plant.
working on with our partners to see how we can brand the Kenyan flour as a responsibly grown flour.
Kenya is also beefing up its bilateral trade agreements to grow its export markets.
EPA is almost complete. It has only 3 main outstanding issues.
Adelaide Chongole, KTN Business.
Agriculture is key to wiping out poverty in Africa. This is according to a new progress report released by the Kofi Annan-led think tank in African Progress Panel. Here's KTN's Philip Keitani.
The Institute of Certified Public Secretaries is pressing governors to instill strong corporate governance structures if their counties stand any chance of attracting investment. While the devolution structure is new to Kenya, it would appear that so far county governments have been unable to shake off the ills found at the central government. According to the Institute, it will be futile to create and have investment opportunities at the county level if sound corporate structures are not in place to check corruption. Elsewhere, Diamond Trust Bank has announced a 19.1% growth in net profit in the first quarter, helped by an increase in interest income. The bank's net profit stood at 1.37 billion shillings in the 3 months ending March 2014. Total interest income increased by 23.7% to 4.9 billion shillings, with the loan book expanding by 4 billion shillings from December to start at 114.9 billion shillings in March. The bank plans to float a rights issue to raise money for expansion into DRC, Madagascar, and Rwanda. And finally, Barclays Bank is expected to send home close to 20,000 employees across its global operations. According to reports in London, more than 6,000 positions at its investment operation will fall over the next 2 years as it looks to shift its focus to less risky areas of the market. The move is expected to have an effect on the Kenyan operation, which last year also rationalized its workforce.
Apologies for that mix-up in that clip. That was Michael Karanja with the day's business roundup. But here's the report that I promised earlier, where agriculture is set to wipe out poverty in Africa. And this is according to a new progress report released by the Kofi Annan-led think tank in African Progress. Take a look.
The 2014 African Progress Panel report has identified agriculture as the key to reducing inequality in the continent, arguing that despite so much growth in the sector, it has done so little to lift people out of poverty, with much of Africa's resource wealth being squandered through corrupt practices and unscrupulous investment activities. The report's authors point out that most of Africa's poor live and work in rural areas, predominantly as smallholder farmers. Countries that have built growth on the foundation of vibrant agricultural sector, such as Ethiopia and Rwanda, have demonstrated that rural sector can act as a powerful catalyst for inclusive growth and poverty reduction. The report calls for African Green Revolution that adopts the lessons provided by Asia to African conditions. Africa currently imports $35 billion worth of food because local agriculture is dogged by low productivity, low investment. The report, however, suggests that increased investment in infrastructure and research could dramatically raise the region's yield and income for farmers. Meanwhile, eliminating barriers that restrict trade. While critical of African governments, the African Progress Report 2014 also challenges the international community to support the region's development efforts. It highlights fisheries and logging as 2 areas which strengthened multilateral rules are needed to combat the plunder of natural resources. Illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing has reached epidemic proportion in African coastal waters, according to the report. West Africa is conservatively estimated to lose $1.3 billion annually. Beyond the financial cost, this plunder has destroyed fishing communities who lose opportunities for livelihoods. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
Great, let's talk numbers now with a look at how your money is working for you. So here is KTN's financial market report.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to KTN Sports. I'm Lane Washira. Dejection, tears and heartbreaks characterized the national junior athletics team trials at the Nyayo National Stadium this morning. 14 athletes may have been selected to the Africa Youth Championships, but what happened on the sidelines dampened a rather successful day. Prospective athletes were either barred from taking part or could not be selected due to age cheating. Victor Ogale witnessed the on and off track drama.
Andrew Lorot, just like hundreds of athletes, walked to the Nyayo National Stadium Thursday morning ready to fight for a ticket to the Africa Youth Games in Botswana. The student at Ruta Satellite Secondary School was full of energy and confidence, obviously unsuspicious of any negative ending. The Africa Cross Country Junior Silver medalist was barred from taking part due to age technicalities.
Nilikuwa na aim ya kuwa nitapewa hii kitu na niende Botswana nikeleta gold kwa sababu naona sina maumivu yote, niko sawa sana na shape iko sawa.
It's very paining both to the coach and the athlete, especially when you train a young boy or a young girl from grassroots.
According to IAAF rules, eligible athletes for the Youth Games must be between 16 and 17 years as of December of the event year. It is believed Andrew, who comes from Pokot, used the same birth certificate to enter into the national team for the Africa Cross Country in Kampala in April this year. However, he did not give up as he joined those cleared to run, but officials stood their ground. KTN has obtained a copy of an appeal letter from the road's handlers written to Athletics Kenya seeking his inclusion in the 3,000 meters race.
We use, of course, the documents that are presented. So that the athletes can run their own the right categories.
Among those selected include Agnes Mule and Joyce Chemweno 800 meters. The boys category had Anthony Kipto and Michael Kiringuti. Jacqueline Chepkoech was selected in the 3,000 meters for girls, while Moses Koech and Philemon Kipto will be the boys equivalent. Victor Ogale, KTN Sports.
And while some individuals and pharmacies have been identified for being behind the deliberate use of performance-enhancing drugs and banned substances in the country, the task force appointed by Sports Cabinet Secretary Dr. Hassan Wario has compiled a list of perpetrators. The report was handed over to the Sports Ministry today by the board chairman, Professor Moni Wekesa. The task force pointed fingers at the Kenya Rugby Union as well as the Football Kenya Federation and challenged them to tighten their anti-doping measures. Claims that doping was rampant among Kenyan athletes rocked the country last year and prompted the Sports Ministry to seek for the truth through the Anti-Doping Task Force, which handed over its report on Thursday. The report findings will form what will be an anti-doping bill to be put in place before 2016 as required by the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA. The Moni Wekesa board interviewed over 100 Kenyans ranging from officials, coaches and athletes. The board admits cases of doping, some of which are not deliberate among Kenyan athletes.
Mind of athletes who were sick, went for treatment, were treated with certain drugs and then went ahead to test positive.
The task force established that most of the substances used are readily available in Kenyan outlets. The board extended its investigations to rugby and football, and it submits that the Rugby Union and Football Kenya have not done much to curb use of banned substances.
The most commonly abused drug, and this is done by almost all footballers, all clubs, and even coaches seem to be encouraging it.
Contents of the sealed envelopes were not disclosed by Hassan Wario, who promised action will be taken against the perpetrators.
Awareness for the athletes across the country so that they know what things to avoid and what are the punitive measures if they don't avoid them.
The recommendations are expected to be implemented soon. The last matches of the English Premier League this season, a Standard Group soccer team that won the Standard Chartered Road to Anfield Trophy will be in the iconic Anfield Stadium this Sunday. The team was officially handed over to Standard Chartered Bank, the official shirt sponsors for Liverpool. The team that leaves for England tomorrow will watch live Liverpool's final Premier League match of the season against Newcastle. Standard Group team received their apparels from their sponsors, who promised the side a tour of their lives. While in Liverpool, the side will take part in a series of matches and have promised to return home with the trophy. I really wish I was part of that team that's traveling to Anfield, but unfortunately, I will be here reporting when they come back and how their tour will be. Well, they'll be at England. And that's all we had for you.